It's the BS Movies Podcast with Brian and Shelly.
Welcome to the BS Movies Podcast. I'm Brian.
Hi, I'm Shelly.
And today we're going to be talking about summer movies, some of our favorite summer movies that we have out there. Very timely since it's very, very, very hot right now in Phoenix.
Yes,
so,
it is in the midst of summer.
That's right,
So.
it is. Yeah, exactly. We're having a wonderful summer this year. We've hit 120 this summer already.
Yeah, we're just melting out
wonderful.
here in the desert. So.
Yeah, we like to complain about it, but then, when it comes around in the wintertime and it's like 60 degrees.
Right,
beautiful,
we're not having to shovel snow or worry about ice storms.
I can make that trade-off.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right, yeah, exactly. So
we just go to the movies a lot and it's air conditioned, so it's fine.
The movies are the best as far as that's concerned. I was actually griping about it the other day when I was seeing Ghostbusters, because it was warm in the movie theater, and it was just sort of like, it wasn't like uncomfortably warm or anything. It was just like a little off, and normally they keep it like freezing cold in movie theaters, which that's fine with me because that's the way I like my movie going experience to be.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was just really warm. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it since we're already sort of on the way there. So, why don't I just start us off here? So, there's quite a few movies in terms of summers movies that were ones that were tough to sort of narrow down, but there's a few that I think that really stand out. And so we'll talk about those a little bit more here. So, Summer School is my first one. Summer School is, I always tell people, is not a great movie. It's not like, it is not a think piece. It is not, it's
not going to change your life.
It is not going to change your life.
Yeah.
But Mark Harmon is super charismatic in that. I never understood why he never became a bigger actor than he did, because I felt like he had the looks, he had charisma.
I have a problem with Mark Harmon.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Well, around that same time as Summer School in the 80s, he starred as Ted Bundy in a TV movie, A Stranger Beside Me. And he was so great in it. It was sort of like the Anthony Perkins effect, that he just sort of became Ted Bundy to me. So he sort of creeps me out. Yeah, so I don't know if a lot of people have that same problem, but that was definitely my thing, that poor Mark Harmon was just a little too good playing Bundy in that role.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the theme is a little bit different than the Ted Bundy, although there is some loving references to horror movies made in this movie that I really, really enjoyed. But it's basically just your, teacher gets roped into doing summer school at the last second and is super pissed off about it, and he gets a bunch of kids that are super not happy to be there because it's summer school.
Exactly.
And they're a ragtag bunch of group, and they have a lot of crazy stereotypes and stuff like that, because it's the 80s, and that's just the way things happened back then, unfortunately.
That's what we did in the 80s.
That's what we did. We stereotyped very, very terribly. We still do, but not like in the 80s. The 80s, it was the creme de la creme of the stereotypes. And just a super fun movie. The whole thing is just really entertaining. And then it sort of tugged on my heartstrings a little bit, because they, as a way to band together to try and rally the kids and get their teacher back after he's going to leave or he got fired. I don't even remember now. I didn't watch it before. It's been a little.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to watch it, once every 5 years or something like that. They put together a horror show of what happens to the bad kids if they don't stay in school, and they use chainsaws and eyeballs on on pencils and stuff like that, and it's pretty awesome.
You were like, my teachers never did this for me.
Exactly. I totally understand why they rallied around this teacher. I would have rallied around that guy too, man. All the dude wanted to do was sit on the beach and drink pina coladas, but. Yeah.
Isn't that all? That's just what we all want to do.
Ultimately, I feel like it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we want.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about Wet Hot American Summer, which I love.
So good.
It's definitely, I think we've definitely talked about this before, Brian, where comedy is kind of tough, because it's hard. I have a hard time recommending comedy movies to people because my humor is different than
it's so
others,
based
and
on
so
taste.
it's so subjective, but it's tough. And I looked this up on Rotten Tomatoes, and Wet Hot American Summer is only ranked 32% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I just have a hard time believing, because I do think it's really funny, and I think there would be more people out there that would find it funny. I think maybe it's misunderstood, because it's definitely kind of a parody of camp movies like Meatballs and stuff that came out in the 80s. This is from the early 2000s, directed by David Wayne. And it's the last day of camp.
Yeah.
And it's the counselors and it's the kids. I mean, it's just over the top ridiculous, but you've got these great performances by Paul Rudd, Janine Garofalo, Amy Poehler. This is Bradley Cooper's first starring role. Yeah. So it's just a lot of fun.
For sure.
And I do think it does have a bit of a cult following.
I think it's a big hit now. Like, I feel like now people have finally come around to it, because it's sort of, I think it was hard to classify when it initially came out, because it's so absurd, you know, and they grasp that absurdity and they just embrace it, you know, like immediately. And so, it immediately sets the tone for the whole thing. And if you don't like that kind of movie, this is probably going to be a tough movie for you to sit through, you know?
Right. And, you know, I'm sure people have a hard time watching Christopher Maloney, who's the camp cook, you know, Gene, but also, you know, our beloved Elliot Stabler on Law & Order SVU. But he's just so ridiculous in this movie, and humping refrigerators and talking to cans of mixed vegetables.
Mixed vegetables, yeah.
You know, but it is sort of absurd and a lot of fun. I do think it's gained in popularity, like you said, because Netflix put out the show,
which is
Wet Hot American Summer. First day of camp is so great.
It's amazing. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. And I didn't know if they were going to be able to sustain that over the course of like 10 episodes, but they did a really great job.
It was so great. So it's a lot of fun. So Wet Hot American Summer is my recommendation.
Absolutely. All right, so, you know, a theme that I always feel like is sort of touched on in summer movies is like the summer of discovery, where you sort of start realizing who you are, you know. Right. And so I picked one for that called Adventureland. I specifically picked Adventureland because I know that there's other movies out there that are bigger than this, but this one sort of, I feel like sort of fell under the radar, and it's got like a really great cast in it. The main character is Jesse Eisenberg, and Kristen Stewart in her most likable role. Like, I didn't actually hate Kristen Stewart in this movie.
Hey, she emoted?
I don't know that she emoted, but like
or she was
cast perfectly as, I mean, she was just cast as that type of girl.
Sort of
you know?
apathetic
hipster girl. Ryan Reynolds is in it. Bill Hader is hilarious in it. Bill Hader is amazingly funny in this movie. And it's one of those, you know, movies where, you know, we've seen it a million times. You're taking a shitty job that you don't want to take in summer, and then it turns out that it's actually sort of really profound, and, you know, really, you start to really take that journey down the road of who you're going to ultimately end up being. Okay. And I felt like they just executed it really well, and it's really, really funny, and it takes place in an amusement park, and there's just a ton of like great throwaway gags that they just sort of throw in there occasionally, just because they present themselves because of where they're doing it. So
I need to give that one another shot then. I watched part of it and just couldn't get through it. And again, like we've said with comedy, sometimes it just depends on the mood you're in, but you're right. It's got a great cast, so I need to I will definitely
it is a little
check that out again.
Like, I think some people see the cast and they think it's going to be like this over the top sort of like goofy oddball, and it's not really like that, you know, which I think is sort of against type for like Bill Hader and Ryan Reynolds, and even maybe a little bit Jesse Eisenberg, you know. So I think maybe like people just didn't sort of get it or something like that. But I really enjoyed Adventureland a lot.
Okay, good. Well, kind of talking about finding yourself in the summer, my next pick is Stand By Me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which
excellent movie.
Came out in '86. I absolutely love this movie. Every time we watch it, I sort of feel like I'm that age again, that like 12 years old.
Yeah, it really capitalizes on that nostalgia.
Yeah, you know? For sure. And even though it's not necessarily our age group. Like, it takes place in the summer of 1959, I think.
Yeah.
It does touch on some of those things that we can all relate to, of those friends we had and the summer. And I kind of think that time when you're like 12, 13, you still are a child and you're still somewhat innocent, but then you're on that cusp of adulthood. So you do understand things a little more than you did, say, when you were like 8 or 9.
Right. You can see the context and things a little bit.
Yeah. So you start to get that a little more. And I think Stand By Me just really beautifully shows kind of the power of not only those friendships, but then kind of that magic of innocence. And it's a Rob Reiner movie. It's based on a Stephen King short story that's really great.
Yeah.
But it's just a really beautiful movie, really well done. And
a great cast.
It's a fantastic cast.
It was basically just like the who's who of like who is going to be great stars in Hollywood. And, you know, untimely, unfortunately, some of them didn't make it, you know, but yeah, no, I mean, it is one of those movies where it just feels like it really captures that moment, you know, and that is something that I feel like everybody, you know, has those sorts of summers, surely, where, you know, you are starting to sort of see how the world works a little bit. And because of that, you're just sort of looking at things in a different perspective a little bit, probably for the first time.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, if you haven't seen Stand By Me, you should.
Right.
You know, it's a group of friends who they hear there's a dead body out in the woods. So it's basically their kind of overnight adventure going to see this body. They're curious, and then kind of the impact it has on them.
Sounds like a terrible premise.
Yeah, not necessarily seeing the body.
Right. That's almost
child,
secondary.
Of a kid that's their age. So it's somebody they know. So it's kind of that first touch of death to them and somebody their age. But then it's really about that journey of them getting there together and their bond. And then also that year they're going from elementary school into middle school. So they know things are going to change because like the River Phoenix character, he's sort of the poor, wrong side of the tracks kid. So he knows, you know, next year at school, you guys are going to move on and I'm going to get stuck because I've already been kind of stereotyped as the bad kid.
Right, exactly.
And it's just a really lovely movie. The way it's set up, kind of the story, the way it's told, it's just really, really great. Some great performances all around.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it was definitely, I think, one of the first rated R movies I ever saw.
Yeah.
And it's for language. I mean, I don't remember there being anything else. Like, I'm sure if it got rated today, it would probably be a PG-13. Like,
I would think so too.
Yeah. So, it's just a really lovely movie that I think, like I said, when I watch it, it makes me feel like I'm that age again. And kind of captures that innocence of that time. Yeah,
for sure. And like, it's one of those films that maybe, you know, I sort of am taking, you know, a different perspective these days when I'm like recommending movies, because sometimes you get into that mind frame of just like, you know, the last 5 years or something like that. And, you know, some of these people that I'm talking to are way, way younger than me, you know, and like a movie that you feel like everybody's probably seen, like Stand By Me, you know, that's just, everybody's seen Stand By Me. You can't really count on that so much anymore. And so because of that, you know, I do sometimes go back and go, well, have you seen, you know, and we'll recommend some movies like this.
And hence the point of our podcast, that we can put it out there into
we can
the
talk a little.
And,
yeah, exactly.
You know, talk about
nobody's talking about, you know, there's no podcast out there that's probably talking about Stand By Me or Summer School. I mean, movies that came out in the 80s, you know. So, yeah, definitely just have to sort of think of that in a little bit of different perspective. And then the last movie that I chose is Do the Right Thing. To me, like, this is another film that I feel like really captures like a moment in time, and like it's just the hottest day in Brooklyn in the middle of the summer, and things are just starting to boil over in terms of like the relationships that the people in the neighborhoods have. And I feel like it's a movie that would be very much at home today, you know, and probably something that people should maybe take a minute to take a look at, because I don't know that necessarily, especially like white middle-aged America really sort of understands, the plight of minorities in this country. And, I'm not saying that it's all terrible and, there's not successes, but there's also this sort of thing where there's, a sort of a simmering undertow that's just there, and so just really, really great performances in this movie. Even Spike Lee, who I normally am not like the biggest fan of, and normally I just want to, I appreciate him, and like I love that he points out like inequality and inequity and stuff like that. But sometimes I just want to tell him to shut up, man. You're just like, shut up, Spike Lee. Yeah. I get it, man. I get it. You know. And maybe that's because he's not talking to me, Maybe he's not really, basing those comments that he's doing on something that I'm doing. Right. But yeah, I know. It's just one of those things where you're like... No,
it is. And it's like you said, it's kind of that, it's the hottest day of the year. So it kind of allows, the temperature allows all these other things that have been kind of bubbling under the surface to finally...
Yeah, they've been simmering for a long time. So it just finally boils over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A really great movie. I highly recommend that. Very sort of politically charged. So, just you should know that getting into a Spike Lee movie. I mean, that shouldn't be
that's not a surprise.
Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Yeah. Well, taking away from the political climate, my last movie I picked is, of course, a slasher movie. I had to get one of
that's what I like to hear.
Slasher movies, and I chose 1983's Sleepaway Camp, which the phrase that came to my mind when I was thinking about this movie is that it's just absolutely batshit crazy.
Oh, it is insane.
It kind of has those...
That's the best part about it, is that it's so crazy.
Well, and that's what I think sets it apart. Like, because there's a lot of, if you look at the 80s, there's a lot of slasher movies that take place at camp. Friday the 13th for sure is one of them.
All of them, basically.
The Burning. Which is also a great movie if you haven't seen.
Humongous. There's a million of them.
Yeah,
I could just sit here and list them
it's
off.
definitely something that happened, but this one is really set apart. And if you haven't seen it, stop listening, go watch it, because I'm going to talk about some spoilers now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. If you haven't seen it, yes, exactly, because there are some things that you just cannot, like when you talk about this movie, you have to talk about these parts of it.
Right.
And so spoilers, because this is big spoilers. This is the whole movie, basically.
Yeah,
so.
Because what sets it apart is, of course, the twist at the end.
Oh, the best twist ever in a horror movie.
And it is. It really is. And I mean, and the last shot is pretty terrifying.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, horrifying, like the look on the face.
When you figure out the reveal and what it is.
Right.
There's a slasher at this camp.
Right.
And you meet this girl at the beginning. Her name's Angela. She's kind of this shy girl.
Right.
She lives
Very
with her
reserved.
cousin.
Yeah.
And what you see at the beginning, kind of the opening prologue to the movie, is...
like the relationship, and stuff like that.
These gentlemen die and the boy and girl die.
Right.
Or you think the boy and girl die.
Yeah.
And then you find out, the girl survived.
Right.
And she's adopted by her Aunt Martha, who Aunt Martha's performance.
If you're going for sadistic, evil... women, she's up there.
Yeah, well, because
she's right near the top.
And it's like, I've looked this up online. It's
subtle too at the beginning too. It's very subtle.
Aunt Martha is played by a woman, which the first time I watched it, you think it's a drag queen, or at least I did.
Yeah.
That I thought it was, a man in drag, and she's playing to the back of the audience. Like, one of her best lines in the movie is like, "Wasn't that nice of me?"
Yeah.
Like, she just yells it.
Exactly.
It's just so over the top. Especially in a movie where you've already got some pretty over-the-top performances.
Right, exactly.
This one is really out there.
Exactly.
But then you have this killer that comes through the camp, and you find out at the end that
there's a lot of clever kills in the movie too, and stuff like that.
Some really
everything
great
you would want
curling
in a slasher.
iron.
Yeah, curling iron.
Do you want to die by curling iron? Hey.
Ooh, no, you do not.
You find out that Angela was actually the boy that survived. And that Aunt Martha, who, as she says, I've always wanted a girl, has made this boy a girl.
Yeah.
And so
and that's the reveal at the
fantastic reveal.
Amazing.
You
slow pullback.
Angela's face, and she's standing completely naked on the beach, and so you just see her, and then it pulls back, and then you realize,
that's
she's
not
the boy.
Angela.
Like, that's Angela's penis.
Oh yeah. No, amazing. Like the reveal is unbelievable.
It's fantastic.
Like I didn't see it coming at all. And like I watch a million of those movies. I'd seen a million of them by the time I finally got around to Sleepaway Camp, and did not see it coming at all.
Well, and you really don't have any idea that Angela is the killer.
Right. No. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's also. Yeah.
So you're kind of thinking it kind of gives you some. Well, I don't even think it gives you any really red herrings. You really don't have any idea.
You don't know.
Is the
it's
killer.
Sort of like it's in the dark, and you don't know what's going on essentially.
So when the reveal happens, it's just
like the whole thing is shocking and it's amazing,
really satisfying. It's really just great, and the sequels are really campy.
I'll tell you, I do like the
I do like them.
The
I own them all.
sequels I like. There's a few more sequels that sort of floated along afterwards that I wasn't super big fan of.
Right.
But I really do enjoy Sleepaway Camp and its two campy sequels.
Yeah, Sleepaway Camp 2 and Teenage Pamela Springsteen. Yes.
Springsteen's sister.
Little sister.
Yeah. So definitely. And so I feel like we've definitely listed off some great movies here. There's a couple others that I just wanted to sort of mention a little bit, just in passing. The Endless Summer, I think, is a really amazing movie. It's about surfers trying to find the perfect wave.
Yes.
And it's just picturesque and beautiful, and the most beautiful places in the entire world. I don't feel like you can talk about summer movies without mentioning Dirty Dancing. I mean, that's.
Do we have to? I'm not a big fan of Dirty Dancing.
You're not a big fan of Dirty Dancing? No. I really like Dirty Dancing a lot. I mean, nobody puts baby in the corner. So.
No, they don't.
And, of course, Dazed and Confused certainly has sort of a summery feel to it, even though it's on the other side of it.
Well, it's just as summer's starting. It's that really great.
And, National Lampoon's Vacation, the original, not the remake. The remake is garbage.
Yeah.
And then... also The Sandlot. I feel like The Sandlot is a really...
Killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls. Another one where it really encapsulates sort of that snapshot of the time there. So...
Okay. Yeah. I've got one I'll mention. It's called Last Summer with a very young Barbara Hershey and Richard Thomas and Bruce Davison.
Oh, I don't even know this movie. Okay.
Yeah, it's from 1969. I caught it on Turner Classic Movies. It's definitely worth a watch. Barbara Hershey is just young and beautiful. I think she was probably like 17 or 18 when this movie was made. Mm-hmm. But she kind of manipulates Richard Thomas and Bruce Davison. She's kind of the hot summer love. And there's this girl who's not as pretty and kind of uncool that sort of starts to infiltrate their group. And so Barbara Hershey definitely manipulates these guys into doing some not so nice things to the girl.
Ooh.
And it's a really underrated, you don't hear about it a lot. Like I said, I just happened to stumble upon it on Turner Classic Movies. So it's definitely worth a watch.
All right,
and some great performances all around. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I would say for Put Down the Remote this week, I would say you would probably want to go to Netflix and check out the Wet Hot American Summer, both the original and the First Day of Camp. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Wet Hot American Summer, the First Day of Camp. Yeah, There's also a great 60-minute documentary about the making of Wet Hot American Summer.
Which was really interesting
called
too.
Hurricane of Fun, which... just some of the things they did to get the movie made was, I always find that interesting, just the tenacity people have to even get a movie done.
And you hear some really candid interviews with people that turned out to be really, really big stars.
Absolutely.
Like, Amy Poehler and Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
he's just telling a story about how he like missed his college graduation so he could be in the movie. You know, it's like it's amazing. So
so those are definitely two to check out.
Yeah, well, don't forget to check out our website at bsmovies.co. You can get to us at bsmovies on Twitter, and you can really, I would say the best thing that you could do would be to like and rate us on iTunes. We would certainly appreciate anything for that. So until next time.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Join the conversation at BS Movies Podcast on Twitter, BS Movies on Facebook, and at bsmovies.co. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Sharing is caring.